I'd like to bring to order the January 9th Powhatan County Board of Supervisors organizational meeting. If Ms. Carmack would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Williams, if you do the invocation, I'd be grateful.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, thank you for another wonderful day in Powhatan County and for all of our many blessings.
Amen. Thank you. Do we have any request to postpone agenda items or additions, deletions, changes in the order of presentation? Can we get an approval for the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Chardon, your turn.
Open the floor up for nominations for the position of chairman for 2023.
Mr. Chardine. I would like to nominate Mr. Byerly for chairman.
Tom?
Don't need a second.
Okay. And any other nominations? Do we take others at this time?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
anybody else, and you can just vote on them in the order they're made if there's more than one.
No others? We'll vote on Mr. Byerly as chairman. Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. McClung?
Aye.
Mr. Byerly?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
No.
Mrs. Carmack?
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Byerly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll now open the floor for the election of the vice chairman for the year 2023.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I
Ms.
would
Carmack.
like to nominate Mr. McClung for vice chair.
All right. Any other nominations for vice chair? Mr. Chardon, roll call, please.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. McClung?
Aye.
Mr. Byerly?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Nay.
And Mrs. Carmack?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. McClung.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the 2023 calendar schedule for the Board of Supervisors.
And two dates to bring to your attention, July and October. Both of those, when we were putting this together, actually fell on the 5th Monday rather than the 4th. So if we want to keep with our regular meeting schedule, we would actually need to move both of those up. So July would be July 24th and October would be October 23rd.
That would make more logical sense.
I say October.
23rd.
In July 24th.
Correct.
Mr. Chardine, board, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. Carmack.
May have a conflict on the joint school board BOS meeting. Is that possible to move that up a week or back a day? I believe I will be out of town on a business trip.
It's currently scheduled for the 14th.
14th, yeah. I'd be okay moving it.
Can-
I'd like to have it sooner anyway.
Well, you know, I was funny, I was thinking about that. When does because every year it seems like the General Assembly gets us, when we have that joint meeting, then we get into, we don't know what the General Assembly is going to do, and that becomes an issue for us. So I was going to go the opposite and try to go a little bit later.
No,
I mean, I don't really care one way or another, but I know that becomes a part of contention because the schools come with their proposed budget, and then we sit back and say, what's the state going to do? I mean, I don't care one way or
no,
another.
I appreciate that. I'm interested in the magnitude of what they're trying to hand us, okay?
Okay.
It wouldn't, understanding that it's going to be adjusted, I don't have a problem, but, the sooner I know what they're looking for, the more time I have and we have to process that. So that's understanding that it has some contingencies to it.
And I agree with that. And they should, if, according to what this calendar is, and I know it's all a little bit subjective there, but they're going to bring forth their budget on the 21st of February. So if we move it closer to the 21st, that's less time we have to look at it. If we move it farther away, then we have more time to see what their budget's going to be, their budget proposal.
Couldn't we have more time if we moved it closer to the 21st?
To the 20,
After
Oh,
they propose.
I'm talking
it?
about of March. Are you guys?
Oh, okay. I thought I
I'm
was
talking
talking
about to the March.
February.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
talking about actually going to the week of the 20th of March or the next week after our supervisors meeting on the 27th. That gives us basically an entire month to explore, research and find out exactly what they're doing. Their budget proposal is set up for February 21st.
Okay.
So if we go to a week, if we go to, for example, the week of the 20th, anywhere during that week or the following week, excluding Monday, we have a Board of Supervisors meeting. For example, let's say we work on the 28th. That gives us a full month to look at what their proposal is from February 21st.
This says we're going to have the joint meeting on the 23rd, right?
On the 14th,
14th.
14th of March.
I'm sorry.
blue block.
Yeah, you keep looking at the
I
year.
keep, like, this is a screwy way to put things. Okay, 14th of March.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
you're,
So, and Mr. Cox, what I'm talking about is just move it up the week past that, or even the last week of March, which gives us more time to look at what she's or the schools are going to propose.
I would prefer to have it sooner, but yeah.
When do you-
This isn't
when-
something
yeah,
I'm going
yeah,
to
exactly. I'm not either. I'm not either. What do you want to do? Pick your day.
Can we do something like the 8th or 9th?
I'm fine with either one of those days. I think, hold on.
And if you all want to, if we adopt all of this calendar with a tentative date on that, after this, I can go check with schools, make sure there's no conflict there. And then we have a workshop next week. So if we need to follow up and change anything, we could then as well. But if you all want to pick a date tonight, we'll follow up.
I'm fine.
Mr. Cox, you okay with the 8th? I've got a plan RVA meeting on Thursday, the 9th. So the 8th, you okay
That's
with that?
fine.
How about we try for the 8th? You guys all right with that?
I'm good.
Okay. Let's try that, tentatively speaking. Okay. Can we get a motion to?
Mr. Chair, sorry, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
I didn't notice this till tonight. Historically, last year we did our workshops on Thursdays. Before that, we always did them on Mondays. I cannot do Tuesday, which y'all may not care,
Okay.
but Tuesday is the one day of the week I can do. We historically, like I said, historically it was Monday, and then last year we did Thursdays because the previous county administrator liked one right before the board meeting. But just so everybody knows, Tuesday is like the worst day of the week for me.
And so we have budget workshops set up for Tuesdays.
Do we need
All the
him on?
workshop,
the
well, all the
workshop?
workshops
I
are on
mean,
Tuesday. The budget ones I don't normally attend, but it's
Yeah.
the other workshops, for example, you got a workshop on Tuesday, November 14th.
Yeah, the budget workshops, or I believe all Mondays. It's the regular, just placeholder, tentative, general workshops that we had slated for Tuesdays. But yeah, I don't think there's any issue with Thursdays. We don't have other things like planning commission, EDA. So those are usually open if the board prefers a different day.
Can we go with Thursdays then? I mean, that sets us up and keeps Mr. Latchney involved. So I think that's probably a good
Yeah.
proposal to go forward there. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. We need a motion.
I move we adopt the county calendar as amended.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we will open the floor up for public comment. Anyone wishing to come and speak, please come down to the podium. You have 3 minutes as an individual. If you're representing a group, you have up to 5 minutes.
Harry Markland, Hope Meadow Road. I just, as you all begin the budget process, I would ask you to look over the school budget very carefully. We have been purchasing a lot of books in the Powhatan County school system that I feel are completely age inappropriate and not necessary for the education of our youth in Powhatan County. Now, the administrator will tell you, well, we buy those books in large bulk from the publishers, and we really don't know what all the books are that are contained in this bulk that we buy. And no one looks at the bulk of books once we purchase them to see, are they appropriate or inappropriate? And I think that's a ridiculous process to have in place where we buy a block of books from a publisher and we don't even know what's in there. And then we have a very, I'll say this, we have a 2-page application. If a parent wants to object to a book that's in the library system, there's a 2-page form that has to be filled out where you have to direct the school board and administration to the page and paragraph in the book that you object to and what specifically it is that you object to in that book. And then they have a review panel. Clearly, I'm not invited to be on the review panel. I don't know who is on the review panel, but it's a cumbersome system to put up a wall for you that they'll wear you out if you want to object to a book. You all hold the purse strings. And I know all the excuses that y'all give us about, well, once we turn the money over to the school board, it's their money and they can spend it however they want. You don't really have any say. And I know that's true to an extent, but you do have control over the money at the end of the road. And you need to really put some pressure on this new administrator over there not to allow this to happen. I'm sure y'all have heard some of the stories, signs that were posted at the library telling the kids which books were banned and which books were not banned yet, and how they could scan the code and get the book that was banned from another library. It's just, there's some stuff going on in the school system that really needs to be addressed, and you have the purse strings. And I just beg you to please tighten the purse strings up on them so that they stop buying these books that are inappropriate for our school children. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Fran Carlton, 2219 Rawson Road. Happy New Year, everyone. As you start this new board season, personally, as a constituent, I'd like to see less snarkiness among this board and a little more professionalism as you move forward. And also for your districts to be more inclusive in your districts. Have town hall meetings when items come up that affect the people in your district, so they have a chance to address their concerns with the person that represents them on this board. And I just have to take the last really big thing that came up was in District 2 with the soil solutions and the stump grinding. I really thought that a forum for people to vent what they feel and how this affects them in District 2 should have been held, because it's where they live. It affects them, their everyday life. And I think we have to keep in mind, at least you have to keep in mind, that you work for the people of this county. You work for the people in your district, I'd like to think first, and then overall for the good of the whole county. And so I'm really asking that you be accountable to your constituents. So moving forward, they know that you have their backs. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do anyone on Zoom, Mr. Chardon? Not having anyone there, we'll close the public comment period. Old business, discussion of the bylaws.
Draft in your packet reflects those changes county attorney had recommended in response to some state code changes about remote meeting attendance.
Okay. Those are all related to basically virtual.
Yeah, it's all remote participation. If somebody's on vacation or the state law changed quite a bit.
Okay.
Since we adopted our bylaws. So I just brought the current bylaws into conformity with current state law.
I think that's a good idea, to put those in and they be there, inclusive in the bylaws.
Right.
Print. There's a couple of things that I'd like to bring into play on the bylaws that I would like to see happen if the board would choose to go forward with that. Under the rules of order for meetings, it's section 7.
What page are you on, sir?
They're in the proposed bylaws that you put in. Let's see, 7. Would be pages 6 through 11. And it's actually the corrected or additions was that Mr. Latchney suggested during December. Number 1 would be, you can have an informal discussion without a motion being made. I think that's important and significant to know that, if you want to have an informal discussion as a board or a board member suggests that, then they have the right to do that without a motion being made. The bylaws currently do not state that specifically. Secondly, I think that the other addition to that section to add to it would be that the chairman can participate in debate just as any other board member. And I think both of those were suggested by Mr. Latchney in those rewrite or proposal of those. Those are the only 2 things that I would like to have included in the bylaw changes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Similarly, I do think it would be pertinent to review the bylaws annually as opposed to once every 4 years. I mean, you could still have the same 4 votes needing to change it, but I think with the organizational meeting, our bylaws should be reviewed.
Well, that's going to happen automatically because next year they'll be reviewed. So this will be the last year these are in effect.
Okay, so they can
So
change it anyway next year.
Next
Okay,
January,
that's
these
fine.
will automatically get reviewed. So
Okay.
that's going to happen.
Does that mean next January, the
Next January
board
at the
can, with
organizational
4
meeting.
votes,
No,
No.
with 3 votes.
3 votes?
Because it'll be a new board.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a new board, they
They can,
aren't bound by these bylaws.
Bylaws,
So
got
3
it.
Majority vote can adopt new bylaws.
okay,
Thanks.
okay. Any other comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any problems with what you're suggesting, but I think that takes us 2 meetings to do that, does it not? It's a change in our bylaw?
No, if 4 of you vote, the rules say if it's was noticed 30 days in advance, I think we technically noticed it 28 days in advance, my suggested changes, but that same section says you can suspend the requirements of the bylaw. So if you have 4 votes tonight or today, you can do it. I mean, basically, if you have 4 votes, you can do pretty much anything you want to do.
So I need to know the precise language and where it is. That's
Right.
okay. I don't have any problem with the concept. I just need
The precise language would
Yeah,
be,
it would
you
be,
got it, Tom?
no, but I can give it to you real quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
Subsection in rules of the order of meetings,
What
which is
page are you on?
page 6 of 11, page 12 of the agenda, page 6 of 11 of the bylaws.
Okay.
Right above the subsection E would say the chairman may participate in debate.
That would be E.
That would be E. And then F, discussion may occur without a motion on the table.
Okay,
I
Go ahead.
have one other.
yes, sir.
Okay, if we could go to page 14, it's 8 of 11. Item 9 says, for any remote participation by electronic communications means the secretary of the board shall make arrangements for the voice of the supervisor, or supervisors. Why are we excluding video?
State law only require, we could make video a requirement, but state law only requires, since state law doesn't require a video feed, state law only requires that the audience can hear the supervisor, not that they can see them. And the supervisor could theoretically be somewhere where they don't have
They don't have a
an
video
internet
feed.
connection and they're
Yeah.
calling in on their phone.
Does this exclude us from having video?
No, no.
It doesn't exclude us.
This
Okay.
is a minimum
Good
standard.
point.
Okay,
Good point.
yeah,
Good point. Okay,
yeah.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, we could have the same scenario we had last month when we lost video.
Right.
And it's not there. So good point.
So I'm fine.
No, it doesn't prevent Zoom. It simply doesn't mandate it to let the supervisor participate.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, Ms. Carmen.
I move that we approve the bylaws as amended.
We need a second on that, don't we?
Wouldn't hurt. Second. We're gonna need 4 votes anyway.
We got a
so.
second. Yep. Roll call vote. Mr. Chardon?
Yep, it's all right. Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. McClung. Aye. Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Byerly,
Aye.
Mrs. Carmine.
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. New business budget guidelines. Mr. Chardon?
Yeah, so as we kick off the budget season here in the county, in the past, at times, we've had some discussion of budget guidelines with the board. Some of them in the past have been, I think, things that are pretty obvious. The budget will be balanced. Well, of course it will. We'll comply with our policies on debt issuance and fund balance, which we have every intent that we would. Not using one-time monies to fund ongoing expenses, things like that we're all very familiar with. But then it also is an opportunity for the board to just give any very high-level thoughts or guidance or anything just for us to have in the back of our minds as we set out starting to put together a recommended budget to bring back before you. It's understanding you don't have a lot of information to go on yet. Those discussions will be happening as we compile that and start to work with you and put it together. But if there are any, again, high-level thoughts you have as we go into this budget year, or any things that you'll know you want as far as information that we could start working on, this is an opportunity to let us know. Otherwise, the process, we'll be meeting later this week with individual department heads on their requests and starting to put something together for you. And we have finance director and budget manager here as well.
Any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox.
I have 2 or 3 things. First of all, my general impression is there's not enough information. I would like to see more information. I'll give you some specifics on that, okay? But let's go to the February 1 through 3 BOS one-on-one meetings. What is the one-on-one supposed to accomplish?
Yeah, and that's something that asking finance director if that was something we did recently or if we've done further in the past, and kind of like the guidelines, it's something where we have not. So it's something I think we did again recently and other county administrators had done in the past as well. I think Ms. Weiler may have done those as well. But just an opportunity for, she did not, but some others I believe have in the past.
Let me finish,
but-
Mr. Williams. Having a one-on-one meeting with no information, at that point, there's 0 information to work with, okay? I know nothing about revenue. I know nothing about cost. The only way that would work for me is if I have the model in advance, so I can take a look at it. And that at that discussion, you make the model interactive. Which we have the ability to do. In other words, if I'm interested in changing the compensation percentage from 8% to 10%, you can show me, does that have a chance of working or what are the impacts? And so I need, if I have that kind of information, then it becomes a useful tool for me. But I would suggest to you that I still don't like the one-on-one. I'm interested because I'm interested in what Mrs. Carmack thinks is important. I may not agree with her or I may agree with her, but that may change. Okay, and the same with, I don't single out Mrs. Carmack, any of my peers in terms of the discussion of what's important to them and where we're trying to go with this budget, I think is very important. And so I can learn as much from my analysis as I can from theirs. And so that's the reason I don't like the one-on-one, okay? So, and one-on-one was done only, that was Mr. Smithers. And we had the same discussion with Mr. Smither. I don't have any information and I'm not showing up without any information. So that's one thing for you. The next thing is I'd like to see a workshop. I'd like to see the workshops expanded. For instance, I think we need to have a workshop on Parks and Rec and there's in the CIP. We're planning to spend, the current CIP says in FY 2023, almost $1.7 million, and then in 2025, $6.5 million. And you've got some personnel things that you want to consider. I need to understand, I need to merge those together, okay? Kind of, are we building a personnel structure that supports what we're trying to do over here with the CIP? And there are too many loose ends, and we haven't discussed the Parks and Rec major plan now for almost 2 years. So anyway, I see that as important. Last year, the only workshop we had that dealt with any specifics was on contributions. Okay, that's fine, but I would like one that also includes departments, what's happening with them, because that's going to feed into personnel. I don't want a presentation from necessarily from department heads, but I want to see what kind of changes we're talking about and where we're going, and so how that beginning to take apart the individual budget, if you will. Workshop on CIP in total, CIP and how it changes and where it's going and how the model, that's important. It really is. So I'm looking for more workshops, more information, and I'm looking to use the time frame that you have for one-on-one meetings in a different way. So that's my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox. Thank you for those comments. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, this would be for, I think it's Schubert. Are you guys pretty comfortable with the modeling and kind of the efficacy and navigating it?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we've
okay.
been working on it. I know Mr. Vo has been putting a lot of time into it. He's already loaded a lot of the personnel requests and things that we have gotten, even though Mr. Chardon has not had time to kind of look at all of that, but we have thrown everything into it so far, all the CIP requests. We're still tweaking, looking at, revenue, speaking with the Commissioner of Revenue. We've done some of that to make sure that we're forecasting out properly. We've also used, we sent it as, for me, I sent it to Davenport to have them kind of look at. And they're giving us, I haven't gotten it yet, but I spoke with him on Friday, have given us some feedback of what they're kind of seeing across different communities and counties across the state, because they work with many localities. So we kind of tried to do a lot of really hard look at, considering that I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't really know what's going to happen in the next year or two, but I want to give you the best information we can. So we are working on that, tweaking that this week. Our goal was to send you the entire model by email, so prior to the one-on-ones, you'll get the whole thing. So you can play with it, look at it. It's complicated,
Right.
but we want you to have it all so that you can have it. I know at the one-on-ones, Mr. Shara and I talked about if you do have concern with that we were going to, kind of like we do at budget workshops, where any kind of request for information or questions that are asked of us in those meetings, compile it all and share it with everyone. I'm into open transparency on anything that is asked of us. So if that makes anyone feel more comfortable about doing those one-on-ones, But it really was more of to look at the model and kind of see a starting place before you kind of make your decisions.
Okay. So we
so
could
yes.
do kind of like we did before, plug in the various tax rates and see the consequences, et
That
cetera.
number go up and down, yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Chardine, I'm assuming you started having your department head meetings, budget meetings with them. I think December, was that?
Starts,
Or,
yeah, we've been meeting on CIP in December. Now to sit down and look at their individual requests, we'll start Wednesday, I think is our first meeting. So we've got a bunch of meetings scheduled over the next week or two to get with everybody.
all right, perfect. And you're feeling pretty comfortable with where the CIP is as of right now? Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Chardine, just looking at the schedule, do we have ample time to advertise a tax rate increase? Because we're going to have to. Tax rate, an effective tax rate increase. The assessment numbers are going to require that, okay? And that didn't go so well last year, so. That's just, I just,
No, I get you. It's a good point. We aired one time. We don't want to air that.
we
next
want,
time.
yeah, we don't want to.
Yeah, I'm
dribble.
with you. But it's more so the tax increase, not the tax rate.
No, it's the
Increase.
effective tax increase.
Right. Yeah, not the
Driven by
tax
the,
rate. Right.
by the reassessment.
Correct.
So I'll try to answer that. So I believe that we're trying to have our tax rate adopted by the March meeting because they need that done, which is hard now that we're on our real estate's not on a fiscal year anymore, which is fine. We have to start having those conversations a little bit sooner. So we are working with the Commissioner of Revenue's office and I'll be getting with him soon to see where his work has landed and we will make sure we have plenty of time to get that 30-day notice out prior to having the public hearing.
It
I
is my understanding that the assessment's going to produce more money than last year.
And he would like to present to you all on some of that. So we have a workshop scheduled on this calendar now for next week. So I talked with him about presenting some of his information at that time. So we'll start to get a look at it officially.
Anyone else have comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
Ms. Wilder wasn't a proponent of the one-on-one meeting.
And that would have been me misspeaking, not Charlotte. We talked about prior county administrators have at times done.
I've experienced it both ways during my course or terms on the board. I will tell you that the Times-Dispatch some years ago ran an article about one-on-ones where the position of the person that was reporting was that it really wasn't in the public interest, that the budget was being made behind closed doors. Now, whether that's true or not, I'll leave that up to you to decide. Having heard what the purpose is, from the finance director, if it's to give me information to help me understand the model, I have no problem with that, if that's the purpose. But I do agree with Mr. Cox. I think there's benefit if it's going to be getting priorities from individual board members. I think it's beneficial to all of us to hear what our colleagues have to say. Because the budget is going to be made by 5 supervisors. So if somebody has got something that's really important, I want to hear it. And I want to hear the basis, for that suggestion, recommendation. I think it serves us well to do that. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. What are the dates that we need to hit to fall within the statute?
For the effective tax rate,
Mhm.
if we want to, I believe we have a little, I said we'd like to do it by that March meeting, but I think we may have, I gotta look at the budget. Calendar. Is it March? I can't remember all these dates, but I think the Commissioner of Revenue said that if we have to push that a week, we can, but if we can reach that goal, then it would have to be advertised at the end of February, the effective tax rate. So if he can get me the information and that we can get the calculation done, we can advertise it and for that meeting, but that's not setting your rate. That's just letting the public know what the effective tax rate increase is. So,
It's there, it can't go up, but it can go down.
correct. Well, that, you're talking about the budget. I mean, if you're advertising the tax rate where it is, and then you say, but the effective tax rate is, I'm just guessing, I don't know what it's going to be, say it's 75 cents or
Right.
whatever it is, then you're just letting everyone know. And then when you adopt the tax rate, you can adopt the tax rate at 77, but you wouldn't go, no, you would not go above that. I'm saying that correct, yes.
That's correct. Yeah, I thought so. So my question is,
Mhm.
maybe you answered it, I just didn't hear you.
Sorry.
What is the date? When is
It
the
has to be
time?
30 days prior to the public hearing. So if we have the public hearing in the March, if your regular March meeting, then you have to back up 30 days from there. So if it's the 27th. We're going to do it, see, I can't remember. I apologize. We've had these dates. Had a lot of numbers in my head. Okay, so we did work it out with them. I was thinking we were trying to do it at the March meeting, but I apologize. We're going to do it on April 3rd. That would give them enough time to do the bills. If we did a public hearing and adopt the rate on the 3rd, then I would have to advertise by March 3rd or the
So-
2nd. I gotta
So,
look into it.
I'm sorry, what I hear you saying is, we have a workshop scheduled for April 3rd. On that date, this board needs to make a decision on what the tax rate will be for the citizens of this county.
Yes, sir. It will be a public hearing.
Yep.
And approve and adopt it that night. And that will also be the night that I would like for you to decide what you want to advertise in the budget so that
Right.
I can meet.
So
The
on that
deadlines
same
for the budget.
time, you want to advertise what the budget will be. You put it in the paper,
Mhm,
April 3rd.
correct. It's my goal.
I get it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
All right, Charlotte,
Yes, sir.
somewhat confused here. You're saying we have to advertise the rate for the public hearing when?
It will, if it's an effective tax rate increase, which from what I think we're all hearing, we probably will have one because we had one last year, would be 30 days prior to April 3rd.
Okay, so that
Effective.
means we would have to advertise March 3rd.
Correct.
That's 30 days, right?
Yes, sir.
So at that point, we're going to be assuming that we're not going any higher than the current rate.
Yes, sir.
That would be the assumption,
Yes,
because you
sir.
can always go down.
Correct.
So we would be putting out an advertisement preemptively before we actually made a decision on the rate and what we wanted to advertise. The rate would go out with today's rate.
Yes, sir. And unfortunately, I think when you have to do that 30-day ahead and you have to meet being able to get your bills out, that creates this kind of conundrum for you, I guess.
Well, I'm just concerned about, what the message is going to be to the public. The public's going to maybe in some cases assume that, okay, we've got this effective tax increase, when in fact, we won't end up there. We'll end up with maybe something less.
Correct.
If I could, I think part of the logic from the General Assembly standpoint is you give the public notice on a rate, which should pique their interest on getting involved with the budget, which you're not adopting at that same point, you're adopting a month later. And so actually it theoretically induces the public to get involved. Hey, if it's a tax increase, I'm going to look at that budget and maybe make some suggestions. And so in theory, advertising the rate is designed to get public involvement on the budget.
Well, I think that'll do it. Let me finish my questions if I may. So on the April 3rd, we will be adopting what we want for the tax rate.
Yes, sir.
Then what happens?
Then, and you also will be, at that same meeting, giving me a recommendation of what budget to advertise. which
So we'll
would-
be advertising again.
Well, that will be advertised in the budget.
I know the budget is going to be new, but we would be advertising what the actual rate's going to be versus the effective rate using the current rate.
I mean, we can put that in the ad. There's nothing that says we can't have it in the advertisement, what the tax rate that the budget's based on. I have to have certain things, in the budget synopsis, but
I'm just trying to understand, the advertisement, and how the different advertisements work. So on March 30th, or excuse me, March 3rd or thereof, we're going to be sending out a notice with the worst case scenario, which would be using the current tax rate, which would include an effective tax increase that we would advertise to the public.
yes, sir.
Then on 30 days later, we would meet and actually decide at that meeting what it is we want to advertise again to the public with the budget, with the rate that supports the budget.
On April 3rd, you'll be having a public hearing on the effective tax rate increase. And at that time, we would also like for you to adopt a tax rate. So once you've adopted that tax rate, if we have to then, we can only advertise a budget based on that tax rate. So at that point, you're making that decision of what tax rate you
So on
want.
April
And then
3rd,
we
we're
will,
going to be making the decision on what the rate is actually going to be.
yes, sir, that's our goal. And then we will advertise the budget based on if we reduce it, then we'll have to make cuts. We'll have to talk about where the cuts will come from, and that will be the budget we'll advertise for the public hearing on the 17th on the actual budget, not the rate, but which will be based on that rate. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're telling me now. It seems like, I know in the past, we've adopted the budget, going into the 1st of May. And along with the rate, along with the CIP. But here in recent years, we're doing it earlier.
So the tax rate needs to come earlier because you went from having a fiscal year real estate to a calendar year. And if we wait till too far in May, Becky and Jamie can't get
I
their bills
got you.
out. So we've
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
do the
I
tax rate in
got you.
April.
Yeah.
It's,
Light came on.
yeah.
I understand.
when we were doing the fiscal year, we could push that.
I understand, yeah,
Yeah.
I understand you explained,
Yeah.
you explained it for me. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox.
if y'all would look at the meeting dates in your packet. So we have to, you've heard what we have to do by April 3rd. On March 6th, we are just getting the financial forecast, budget presentation, and school budget presentation. That's the 30 days in advance, okay? We need to have, if we're going to do this, we need to have a busier February is what I'm telling you. I mean, the decisions that are being made and the information that supports it to meet what Charlotte needs, okay, is difficult using this calendar.
I do want to say on the 3rd, we're still just advertising what the effective tax rate is. You still have 30 days to decide what your tax rate is going to be. I just wanted to clarify.
No, I understand that, but on March 6th, we're getting the first real look at budget. Okay. I don't anticipate it's going to go smoothly. And that there'll be a fair amount of discussion. And that we need more time in February with we need more information in February than we're getting. That's all.
I'm not going to disagree, but I'm going to go back to where we were with, what was the date that we settled on to have the joint meeting with the school board in our amended motion earlier
On
tonight?
the 8th of March.
Yeah. So now, I mean, when you start going into this, maybe that needs to go back down to the latter part of March. And that gives us even more time to look at, the county budget, which is, inclusive of the schools.
I don't disagree.
Okay,
Okay.
so, and I'm.
I'm just trying to get more information faster than this is giving me. That's all.
Right. So,
And the sequence is beginning to get a little complicated for me.
yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all, Mr. Cox, at all. But I think that there's a word that you keep using that I keep focusing on.
Uh-oh.
You keep saying the goal is April 3rd. And to me, I get the goals part of it, but if I said, what's the drop dead date that we have to do that? And, advertising the effective rate, I get March 3rd. That's what's got to happen. That's not a variable set of circumstances. Our tax rate that we set becomes a little bit more flexible in terms of when we have to determine that. And flexible to me is, I mean, it could be a week, we may have to have 3 meetings in a week. I don't know, but I'm like Mr. Cox, you got to have enough
Right.
time to decipher this information because it's complex. There's probably not going to be a lot of agreement. And when you look at this, what's our push date? The date that we can absolutely go to set a rate. And when we set that rate's not one that we have to advertise. The effective rate's what we have to advertise. The budget, however, is what that's a goal that you use with the budget to get on that same night, April 3rd. How far
So,
can we go? mean,
I would
what's
have to
our-
probably defer to the treasurer and the commissioner on how far we can go on setting the tax rate, because depending on how much time it takes them to get the book, once they put the rate in, running this through the system, I think this year's going to be smoother because they've done it once
Right.
already and but I would have to get with them on what that drop dead date to give Becky her 30 days before the due date of the taxes to get them mailed. She likes to mail them 30 days prior to the due date. So I don't think there's a ton of extra time in there, if I had to say, for a drop dead date. And also, as far as, I just want you, when we change the dates of things, which is fine,
Right.
is a ripple effect on when we have to get it into the paper and have the 7 days before the public hearing and then have the 7 days before you can adopt the budget, which we have more time for that than we do the tax rate, because we have to make sure we have the tax rate in time for them. But I don't think there's, if I had to guess, you may only have 1 more week before they're going to say that they need to have the rate. But I would like to talk to them to be sure. I don't want to push them into a corner on their timeframes for what they're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, the tax statements will be due June 5th.
Correct.
And they need 30 days ahead of time. Ms. Nunley's going to want 30 days ahead of time. So we back up to that latter part of April.
I don't think they can go that
And
far.
I get what you're saying.
Because it has to go to the
let's get them
printer, she
involved.
has to proof the book, they have to sign off on it, then it has to go to
Yep.
the printers, and then she proofs the bills before this. So there's a little bit more that
Okay.
goes on in between getting it in the system and in the mail.
Could-
But I don't know how many weeks she needs to do that. So I can get with her on that and let you guys know exactly the drop dead date for that.
Yeah,
and-
I'm
and
good
let
with
you
that. I
know.
mean, if everybody up here would be okay, I mean, I kind of think that maybe what we should do with this calendar is let's go to the next meeting, the January board meeting, and look at maybe some other alternatives beyond the calendar that we just approved. Are you guys okay with
Yeah,
that?
that was exactly what I was going to say. Let them get together with,
We're going to have
More robust
we're going to have a
dates in
workshop
February.
before the,
We have a workshop,
We
I
have a
guess, on the
workshop.
17th of January. We can bring it up at that point and, yeah, good-
the
good
sooner
point.
the better.
Yeah, good point. And that gives these guys a little bit more opportunity and get with Mr. Timberlake, Ms. Nunley, and let's see if we can. And then also bring into what Bill's talking about. Maybe we can have another meeting or something in February to get a little more information.
Is that workshop still on that Tuesday, or I thought we moved all the workshops to Thursday, so it should be the 19th.
Which would be the 19th.
19th.
we definitely
got
need
it
to
right.
rework this calendar.
Yeah. So the 19th. 19th workshop. Workshops are going to be at 3:00 in the afternoon. And at that time, we'll readdress this calendar situation. Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Ms. Weaver.
Charlotte, I can get with you or you can send it to me, but what I'm looking for is a continuum
Okay.
And on that continuum with dates and identifying on that particular date, what has to happen,
Okay.
okay? And that will give me a better idea. I've made notes as I've gone along here tonight, but I would like to see again, the actual dates where we begin this process, advertising. I believe you said around March 3rd,
Okay.
the effective rate. And then what happens 30 days later.
Okay.
And then subsequent to that, what
What
happens as
happens with
well.
the budget process
Right.
and the
So
deadlines for that? Okay.
having that on a continuum with dates and description with the date as to what's happening would be very helpful for me.
Sure. I can get that to you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman, are
Yes,
we
Ms.
doing the
Clerk.
one-on-ones or no? Just so staff has some clear delineation on that. Are we going to just do a joint meeting that week instead of the one-on-ones, or did we have a decision?
What's the week? Is it that week that you'd schedule the one-on-ones, Mr. Chardon?
It was February 1 through 3 is what we had proposed. So, yeah, I'll
Mhm.
defer to the pleasure of the board. Certainly, if we do them, our goal would be to make it as transparent as possible. So any questions or information that gets asked, share it with everybody. Yeah, we would not want you to come in cold with no information, so share everything we can prior to. And a big part of that is, as Ms. Schubert said, would be just playing with the model, looking at different scenarios. So if the board sees value in that, we can still do it. But if you prefer to do a different way, replace it with a workshop, whatever, we'll defer to what you all find most useful.
I'm fine with doing the one-on-ones and then any information, questions I have, I don't care if you share them with everybody in Powhatan County, doesn't make me any difference. But I do think after that, then we have a meeting, a workshop meeting, as Mr. Cox has brought up, somewhere more than just one in February is my point. And then, we can bring it out and go at it then. Me personally, I'm in favor of the one-on-ones.
Is there going to be one-on-ones or two-on-ones? I mean, or combination, or it can be anything of the above.
Yeah, me personally, I don't care. If it's two that go in at one time, that's fine. If it's one, I'm fine either way.
I don't have any problem if we were doing this, just for the model and going through it and getting some assistance and understanding how the model works. And if you want to go forward, with these, one-on-ones or two-on-one meetings, I want to see before I have another workshop, go into a workshop, I want something from staff that says what was discussed. So I'm prepared going into that meeting.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. Anything that I discuss, you can advertise it to Powhatan County. I don't care. You can record it if you want. If that's fine, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with one-on-one, two-on-one, whatever, however we go.
Mr.
Again,
Chairman,
my
I think,
concern is I'd like to have that information prior to any subsequent workshop or
Yep.
any meeting.
Got it.
I think probably for
got going on.
staff's time, I think it would be more effective to do two-on-ones. Just they have a lot of work. We're shorthanded. I think two-on-one would probably make more sense.
Okay, and that's fine. We can do that. As Mr. Williams said, any of the above works. Did y'all get that worked out over there? Yeah, we good.
He's gonna go twice.
Okay. We'll do that. Okay. You got that? You've got your information there, right? Right, okay. Now we'll open up for our second public comment period. If anyone would like to come down and make a comment. Anyone on Zoom? Okay, well, not seeing anyone, we'll close the public comment period. We'll go to county attorney comments,
No comments, Mr. Chair.
county administrator comments,
No comments.
board comments. We're going to go into a closed session. Mr. Latchney, if you take us into that.
All right. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Powhatan County desires to discuss in closed meeting the following matters. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the public body concerning the county administrator. Consultation with legal counsel pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body concerning a broadband installation issue and single cut litigation. And whereas pursuant to sections 2.2, 3711A1 and A7 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Powhatan County does hereby authorize discussion of the aforestated matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ready?
Members of the board were the only matters discussed in the closed session. Public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and only such matters as were disclosed in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session. Need a roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. McClung,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Carmack,
Aye.
Mr. Byerly.
Aye. Adjourn.